the compliance team, the private security. I'll just explain how they do that. In terms of the private security, I've already said that we would allow persons to quarantine at their home, but they have to meet certain conditions. Now, one of the conditions is that they must have security at their home, at their premises.
Right.
And the reason why we require that, prior to the lockdown, prior to the closing of the borders, when we first started to quarantine persons who were coming from North America, we allowed them to be quarantined at home because you know how fast it came upon us. No, there was nothing in place, no systems, no structure in place to deal with.
It was a learning curve.
Right. We were just learning and getting our feet wet. So we allowed persons to go home and quarantine, and we took their word that they would not come out. We trust that everybody understand the gravity of the disease, and they would understand why there's a need for them to stay home. And then we start hearing persons saying, boy, I thought GQ was supposed to be quarantined. I see GQ down Valley Mart yesterday.
Cabin fever took
I see GQ son on this trip last night. I thought GQ just come from GQ son just come from New York last week.
Then you see a picture going on.
Exactly. Persons out in public.
Yeah.
Right. So these same people who promise us that they would stay home and who we trust to stay home, they're seen all over the place. And so the police were now forced to guard some of them house because it turned out that some of these same people were positive.
Okay.
Who were going around, who were supposed to be in quarantine.
Right.
And so the police and the defense force were forced to set up camp at their homes.
Put measures in place to,
to ensure that they don't come out.
Right.
No, we can't go through that. We do not have the resources to put a police by everybody's house because it would take more than one police because it will be a 24-hour cycle. And so we cannot have police and soldiers by everybody's house and still continue our regular public duties. And so we thought that we could use the private security sector to complement the police and at the same time provide a source of income for their firms. So we are using the private security firms to provide security at these persons' house to ensure that they comply with the conditions of their quarantine.
Okay.
Now, we don't expect the private security to wrestle them down to the ground if they come out the house. Their role is just to monitor, observe, and report.
Right.
So if you see GQ come out the house, they call
XYZ.
call the police right away. Right. Whoever they're supposed to call and say, GQ just leave the house. I told him not to leave, and he insists.
Yes.
And we would respond to that. So that is the role of the private security, to provide security at the homes of those persons who are in home quarantine. The island constables, they have been working alongside the police. They're basically an auxiliary unit to the police force. We use them. They started by using them at the tourist areas to do tourist patrols to provide security in tourist sites.
Right.
Well, with our tourist industry closed, we now have to find a new role for them. So we are using them to assist with the security at some of the government-designated quarantine sites. So we are utilizing the island constables for security.
And at the schools, I see.
Pardon?
And at the schools, I see. At the high schools, I've seen some of them there as well.
Right. We use them wherever there's a need for security. We use them in these areas because, we have to have compliance at the schools also. So we use them to supplement the police. We do not have enough police to put every place. So we use these persons in that capacity.
Okay.
The compliance team, as the name implies, they are there to ensure compliance with the regulations. So their function is to go around to businesses and enterprises and ensure that these businesses are complying with the protocols, having the sanitization stations, having the pace markers on the floors, ensuring that persons wear the mask. For events, they will go to the events and ensure that the events are complying with the conditions of their permission, ensure that they have permission. So they're basically enforcing the regulations in terms of compliance.
Gotcha. Sergeant Richards?
So that was quite a mouthful, and I think what the soup indicated earlier, that in the very incipience of the whole COVID saga, I think that took place at a time where people didn't understand one and didn't have an appreciation for the whole pandemic. So even the persons would have promised to quarantine at home, they still decided I need to get the groceries from the supermarket,
exactly,
or I need to go and top up my phone, I need to pay my bills, without even understanding the gravity of their actions. So We
and
were
they would say
forced to-
themselves, well, me is sick. I feel good. Me got a fever. Me got a symptoms. I feel good. And so they would take comfort in that and feel that it's okay to go out. But there's a state that is called asymptomatic state.
Right.
Precisely.
Where you do not exhibit any symptoms, you don't feel anything.
You're
You
still
don't know.
contagious.
But you have the virus and you're contagious,
Right.
unknowing to you.
All right. Well, so there's a phrase being used: vacation in place. Could you explain to the public what that basically means?
Vacation in place is basically a nice word for quarantine. I mean, let's be frank. You still have the same restrictions of the quarantine, except that we try to make it as less strenuous on the visitor. Because
Indeed.
you come here to vacation. You didn't come here to stay one place in a room. And so what that does, it allows the visitor some flexibility while at the same time maintaining the distance between the visitor and the rest of the local population.
Right.
So the hotel would first have to be approved for visitors vacationing in place. Not all the hotels have this privilege. So the hotel would have to be approved to allow that, and they would have to show the task force how are they going to achieve that. How are you going to serve your high-risk guests, serve the local population, and keep the two separate. So they have these protocols in place. So they have
Right.
certain amenities at the hotel outside your room that these high-risk guests could enjoy, while at the same time keeping away from the local population. So
Yes.
if you have entertainment, you must have a portion of the hotel that is cordoned off just for those persons and enjoy that entertainment. They could
Okay.
go to the pool, they could go to a restaurant, but that restaurant must be closed to the rest of the public. So if you have a restaurant in the hotel and you have your high-risk guests using the restaurant, locals must not.
Shouldn't be able
Should not
to
be
access
allowed
the-
to access the same.
Alright. So you
the same
separate-
restaurant.
you
So
separate.
have a separation between
Okay.
between the local guests, local population, and the high-risk visitors.
So basically,
they could
you're
enjoy themselves
you're allowed to enjoy while still observing all the
while still observing the protocols.
protocols.
Yes. And of course, it is the 14 days is broken down into two parts. If you're here for 7 days, 5 to 7 days, then you enjoy the amenities in the hotel for the first 7 days. If you're here beyond that time, you are tested on the 7th day, and if you are negative, then we allow you to leave the hotel again in a controlled way. So there are certain approved excursion sites outside the hotel that you can go to, but you can only go in approved transportation and by appointment. So you have to first consult the hotel's tour desk,
Right.
make an appointment to visit these sites, have approved taxis take you to the sites, and it is controlled. These sites are approved, so the staff at the sites know how to handle you, know how to keep you separate from the local population again at the sites.
Right.
And so you could enjoy the sites again in a bubble and being away from the local population. So I think some of the sites that readily come to mind, Brimstone Hill, Kybel, Batik, I think some of the ATV tours, the zip line, those sites have been pre-approved
Okay.
as excursion sites that visitors who are on the 8th to 14th day of their stay can visit these sites.
Okay.
After 14 days and you're still here, then you're free to go strip.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a break. Remember, this morning program is sponsored by National Bank. And then after that, when we return, with your permission, of course, we'll take some calls. 465-2555.
It's the opening of Carnival at National Bank. Get up to a $40,000 loan unsecured with a repayment
People
option
are
up to
living
4
healthier and
years.
longer lives. Families are growing from strength to strength. Things are good now, thanks to Social Security. But the reality is, in order for the fund to remain sustainable, we must begin the conversation about Social Security reform. It is our responsibility as a nation to make sure that Social Security continues to exist for generations to come. Social Security, because you deserve a future.
Welcome back. Over to you, Sergeant Richards.
Yeah, so Soup, there's been rumors going around, and I would put this to you so that you can confirm or deny. Rumors going around that now that the borders have reopened, the police don't want to approve events and functions. Promoters wanting to have events, persons wanting to have paid functions and things of that nature. And it is rumored that the police don't want to approve any of these events now that the borders are reopened. Is there any credence to that?
Well, it is not totally true. What the commissioner has said is that he would not be approving any major event, any big party, big fete, those major events that attract large crowds. You know, we first have to see what happens, how things play out with the reopening, before we could just start to allow people to socialize in a big way. But the other smaller events, DJ at a bar, you know, those would continue. In fact, I was just going to my emails and I see at least 20 emails already for the week of events, activities that have been approved for this weekend. So it's not entirely true, but the large events, you want to attract 500, 800,000 people, those definitely would be a no-no, at least for now, until we really get a handle of what's happening. We have new protocol, it is new. We have to first ensure that we have everything down pack and everything is working the way it should before we could really fill and have these type of large events.
So then it's a case where you approve events, but they're only up to a certain number.
Right.
So
Smaller
for the
events.
larger events like the concerts and things like that.
Right, those large concerts.
Well, that makes
type
sense.
events.
But
That's a lot of
one
fun.
would think that these promoters would understand that even though you
We hope so.
you seeking approval for an event like that, under the protocols, you too also have to show how you intend to stay in compliance with the protocol while having these events.
Right, and for the large events, it's very difficult.
Indeed.
I mean, you would not believe we had one promoter apply to have a street parade with 1,500 in December. I mean,
How do you promote social distancing and COVID protocols?
how do you get that?
Gentlemen, I'll ask you all to put on your headphones. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. Let's take another call. Well, our first call for the morning, I should say. And good morning to you alive.
Well,
Eh.
good morning to you and good morning to Superintendent and Sergeant.
Morning.
As usual, great program, and I always enjoy the Superintendent. His explanation, it is very clear, and he's doing a lot of work behind the scene. Hard working gentleman. Keep up the good work, Superintendent.
Thank you, sir.
In relation to the reopening of the borders, the big test is going to be on Saturday. Fortunately, I work at the airport, and maybe some persons were skeptical. I was on vacation at one time, and I'm glad that I'm able to go back out and see exactly what is going on. There are some serious changes, and persons should feel a lot more comfortable. I guess you have to be there or see what is going on
Right.
to actually feel that
Appreciate.
sense of comfort.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yes, but honestly, as I said, come Saturday, we expecting our first international flight. Unfortunately, the British flight had to pull out, so that kind of set back things in the sense that we were looking forward to the British flight coming in at the same time, the same day, bringing more guests, because right now, we need the funds. It's not maybe about it. Just the airport, the changes in the airport was millions of dollars, and the government have to get back the money somewhere, somehow.
Yes.
And persons have to understand it's in the sense that we are in new territory, and we have to understand it's gonna take some time. So, person don't feel like expect that there is one time we're gonna have this influx of persons. It's gonna take a while before persons are comfortable. I'm guessing that some persons gonna allow someone to go get some feedback. And the bottom line that we are in a good position because we don't have a lot of cases, and that is one of the things
Active
why
cases.
active cases. Let me put it that way. Thank you for correcting me.
Right.
And that is one of the things that's why some person will be heading towards the Federation of Thinkers and Navies. But we at the same time still have to understand we are a part of the global world. We have international person going to be amongst us, so we have to just do what we have to do. And that's why the superintendent was preaching all the time, wearing the mask. For me now, wearing the mask is like wearing my seatbelt. It becomes like a part of you.
Right.
Some persons still taking it for granted, even the bus, and I think the police need to work on the bus and the person who travels the bus, because it's still a serious problem. But generally, we have to understand the reopening of the border is for all of us. All of us will benefit, once everything goes well. So I want persons to be positive, and that is a lot of negativity. Oh, when the borders open, we're gonna shut back down. If you shut back down, all of us gonna at the end of the day be at the losing end.
Right.
So it's our country. We claim that we love our country. Just let us wish the best. It's a lot of work was done behind the scene for us to get to this stage. So I just want persons to wish and just pray for the Federation of Thinkers and Navies.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a good day.
Thank you, Carla.
Any response before we take the next call?
Well, just to respond to something Nicola said, he alluded to the fact that the government would have, invested millions of dollars in making several changes at the airport. And then you understand, one, just how serious the government has taken the COVID pandemic, but two, there's also appreciation for the fact that we can't remain close to the outside world forever.
Right.
And in order to reopen the borders, there are things that need to be done, and they have endeavored to do them in order for us to be not only safe, but to continue to have the revenue that drives our industry from tourism.
And to reassure the outside society, or if I can put it that way, that we are prepared to deal with COVID-19 as well.
Indeed, because it is a far, as the Soup said earlier, it is a far cry from where we were in March to where we are now. And we, as you rightfully said, Jiki, we have no active cases. And in order for us to remain that way, there needs to be compliance with all the COVID rules and protocols. And we also need to take our own health and safety seriously. You still see persons, the regulations state that the mask must be worn, how the mask should be worn, where the mask should be worn. And persons yet still have no appreciation for wearing the mask.
Right.
As the caller indicated, again, wearing a mask now is like putting on your shirt or wearing your seatbelt. It is the new normal.
Gentlemen, let's take another call. Line 3, we lost you. Let's try line 2. We lost you too. Let's try line 1. Good morning, you're live. Okay, we lost line 1. Let's try line 3. Good morning, you are live.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning.
Great and timely show. We have a serious problem in our store, where you find people always want to either come in without mask, or when they come in, they want to take it off and pull it down and all sorts of things. I mean, they're only in the store for about 10 minutes, because you come and you order and you go. Again, too, sometimes you draw it to their attention, and the first thing is, I got asthma. You understand? I mean, I know you all say they should have a card or a certificate or something, but the thing is, too, if you have asthma, you can really go in certain places. Let somebody do the transaction for you.
Right.
Because if you go in there unprotected, too, even though you have asthma, you
still could get the virus. Yeah.
Right. So, address that for me, please. Thank you.
All right.
Well, what we encourage businesses to do is just refuse to serve persons who are not complying. If you come in a business place, you're not complying with the rules of the business, rules of the country, then we cannot serve you, because if you serve that person in that state, then you would be encouraging and be complicit in the whole breaking of the law. So just simply refuse to serve that individual until they comply with the regulations.
Indeed, because these protocols are not just for their safety, GQ, but for the safety of the entire public. Yeah. Being afflicted with a particular ailment does not exempt you or excuse you from following the COVID protocol. So as the Soup said, if you refuse to wear your mask, then these businesses should refuse to serve you, because at the end of the day, you still have to comply.
Putting the other customers at
risk.
Yeah. And so the business has an obligation to protect its customers. And so if there's one customer putting the rest of the customers at risk, then you should really isolate that person.
I agree. So, what is the process for applying for permission to host an event, and what is the criteria that these persons have to meet?
Well, the process is very simple. It's applied to the Commissioner of Police. There's an email address that we are using now, Office of Commissioner @police.kn. But very near future, we'll be launching a website whereby persons could go to the website and apply. There's an application form. They complete the form, submit the form, and you will get your response via the same means on the website and through your email. You get a QR code with the conditions of your permission. Of course, you'll be able to read those conditions in the email that you get. But the QR code will be for the police officers or the compliance teams who are in the field, who may ask you to see your permission. You show them that code, they scan the code, and they will see what permissions you have, what conditions you have, and see if you're complying. But the process is very simple. I think by now everybody know all the protocols. You must show how you're going to comply with the protocols. I think part of the application process is that you must also upload your compliance plan, your COVID-19 compliance plan, how you intend to comply with the protocols at your event. And so you must upload that plan. And as I say, everybody should know what the protocols are right now. Physical distancing, sanitization, wearing of masks.
Yes.
You can't tell me you have a 10 by 10 space and you want 100 people in it, and you're going to have physical distancing.
6 feet.
It's impossible to have that many persons in such a small space. So depending on the size of the premises that you're going to host your event, you will be granted certain number of persons.
All right, let's take another call. Let's try line 2 again. Hi, good morning. You live?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, morning.
Good morning to you, JQ, and Inspector Henry, Superintendent.
Yes, morning.
Yeah, I got a question. The question is that he's a bus driver, right? And the passengers, some of the passengers, jumping in, they're down their mask. But what is happening now? We can look in, we mirror and tell them every minute to put on the mask. People just be, when you look, the police are going to stopping you. What the role of that there? Because the way I understand is that the driver could get ticket for the thing.
Well, no, not in the case of mass. Only in the case of seatbelt, the driver will get a ticket if front seat passenger is not wearing the seatbelt. But in the case of mass, each person is responsible for their own actions. And so, as long as you have on your mask and you put
so
you
let's
have
go
signs,
jump in the bus with the mask.
right?
And when the police stop them and they ain't got it on,
They're responsible. The police will deal with them. They will not. The police. Once you have on yours, the police will deal with the passengers.
And the front passengers them.
All the passengers. Each passenger is
but
responsible
some of them
for
behind
himself.
they take all them ask them, man. You can't understand.
Just ensure that you have signs in the bus. You know, have signs in the bus that is,
Well,
that is
I'm going to
visible.
put on one now too, you know.
Yeah, put a sign at the entry, at the door. No entry without mask. Or keep your mask on, and have the sign displayed at prominent positions in the bus.
Okay, and the next thing, the passengers them believe that the bus sanitizes them for the bus belongs to them too.
So they leave with it when they're leaving.
So when they're coming out, the bus, when they're coming in the bus, some in the calling, you got any sanitizer? I believe they're supposed to got their own thing. That they don't need to clean the bus.
Well, you really should have. Maybe it might not be possible for you, the driver, to do it every time, but as persons coming the bus, you should have someone there to sanitize their hands. Have someone, so maybe you need to get somebody, a conductor on the bus with you, so as the passengers come in.
No, we don't do that. We don't do it, you know. But they want to come every day.
Well, every time they go on the bus, they should sanitize.
We lose money, so.
But it's part of the cost of doing business. So you must factor that as one of your expenses.
Yeah, but you see, we don't have hand sanitizer, you know, but we want to sanitize our bus, not them the hand every minute.
Well, but that is different. You have to sanitize the bus and the passengers as well, the hands. You have to do both. So at the end of every trip, you really should wipe down the seats, wipe down your door handles.
And them that's the thing.
Right.
But them want to come every minute, every time they jump in the bus, they got anything, and I believe them they're supposed to ask their own thing.
But it's the same way. It's the same way when you go to a store or a supermarket. There's someone at the door who sanitizes your hands. Or they have a dispenser. They have a dispenser that you do it yourself.
No, man.
Well, it's one of the costs of doing business. The supermarkets have to buy sanitizers the same way.
Yeah, but you know,
just see it as an expense. I agree. I agree. Everyone should take their health personal and keep their hands clean, but the businesses have a responsibility as well.
Yeah, I think. But the main concern is that the passengers them jumping in the bus with the mask and then.
It off. Yeah, we see that.
We are the drivers them driving. We can look in we rear mirror to tell them every minute put back on the mask and so.
Put up a sign in the bus, and the regulations make provisions for persons to be ticketed when they're not wearing the mask. So as soon as the tickets are printed and we have them available, when the police stop the bus, all the passengers who do not have a mask.
So you're saying, so if he has up a sign,
He has up a sign, he has on his mask, then he's clear.
right.
Each passenger now would have to be responsible for their own
Right. So why you're ignoring the sign?
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, thank you,
So
sir.
put up a sign in the bus so that people could see it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
All right. Well, at least that saved the busman,
Yeah.
Indeed, because at the end of the day,
Because
you
you
know,
can't drive and be looking back
and
to
be
see,
looking back.
to see who take off the mask.
Correct.
So if you could show the authorities, look, I'm doing what I have to do.
Yeah, I have on my mask. I put up a sign
Yeah.
asking them to put on their mask. I can't put on the mask for them.
Right.
So they now have responsibility to comply.
Okay. You have another question, or you want to take some more
Yes.
calls?
Well, we can go back to the phone lines.
All right, let's try line 3 this time. We seem to be lucky with line 2. Well, yes.
Just losing luck.
Yeah.
Morning.
Good morning, line 1.
morning.
Blessed morning to you, JQ, and all the officers that are there.
Good morning.
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Morning.
My problem is the bus is going west. The driver has no concern about people getting on with their mask on and a sanitizer waiting for them. I have to ask, please, can I have my hands sanitized? And he can't even find what he has sanitized. He's looking under his seat, he's looking everywhere. And all the bus is packed to capacity. Please, you all must look into that. The West Bus Terminal is atrocious.
Yes.
Please, sir, look
I-
into it.
I would bring this to the attention of the compliance team so that they could pay some attention to the bus terminal.
Thank you very much and have a blessed day.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, let's try line 3 again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good
Morning. Yes.
I have a concern calling from the east. We have some buses that I understand that the ranch company gave them authority to go in the parking lot and let off some people. And I understand now that the policemen is stopping them. And me, I'm talking of me especially, because I have to put a borrow from the doctor. And I would be very glad to get the shortcut. Because when I have to go to National Bank or wherever, I have to either jump up by the stands or down the terminal to go back up by the... And it's hard for me. Up to yesterday, I witnessed policemen telling them they can't go in. And it's very hard. I want to know if some of you policemen don't think about our parents when they get old, or even are you, because I was young too. I'm not forcing to be old now, but it's just because of my foot problem, and I'm concerned about others. I want to know what's really going on with this sort of thing, because it's confusing to us as let's call it the different behaviors or whatever it is. And it's confusing to some of the bus. It is frustrating the busman then. So I would like to get some answer about that, please.
You understand what she was
Yes,
saying?
yes, and I'm aware of the situation. And it's unfortunate. I really feel it for her, and we really would wish that there's something that we could do. But, the bus drivers, they are their own enemies. Whatever provisions we make for them, they eventually spoil it and have to lose it. There used to be a bus station a bus stop just outside the Chinese supermarket. There used to be one outside Rams. There used to be one by Hosford. And we had to move them because all the buses congregate there, waiting for people. Nobody is there, no passengers are there, but the buses just congregate there. And when there's no space, they park in the road and create all kind of havoc for traffic. And so we just could not allow it to continue. And so because of their behavior, we have to inconvenience the poor old lady. And we really do not like to do these things. Now, they want to...
Can any discretions be made for those individuals in terms of the bus driver?
But I'm saying, if we make a discretion and say, you could park here to pick up passengers, if passengers are there, they're going to park there when no passengers are there to wait until the passengers come a half an hour later. and 5 or 6 of them are going to go in a space that could only hold 2. And you know that's going to cause problem for other traffic. And that is what happens all the time. I'm certain persons will recall when the bus station was by Hasford Shipping outside the Pelican Mall. Buses used to park all in the corner on the pedestrian crossing 2 abreast because there was only space for 2 buses. And there used to be 5 buses there sometimes. So they park abreast and they park in the corner on the pedestrian crossing, and there are no passengers there. And the bus stop, you're supposed to only stop at the bus stop when there's a passenger there, or if you want to put off a passenger. If there's no passenger, you should pass. You should only stop to pick up passengers, not stop to wait for passengers. And they were using it as a bus station rather than a bus stop. And we just couldn't allow it to continue because it was creating risks for other road users. And the same thing would happen at Rams if we allow it. All the buses would reach down there. And when the space inside the parking lot is filled, they would come out in the roundabout and block the entrance. That means they just spoil everything, every privilege that they get. They spoil it. And that is the problem. If we could only get them to cooperate and do what we ask them to do, things would go fine. But they just do things their way and make it bad.
So they have to bear the consequences.
I don't know how we could help, what else we could do to help. We tried, we moved that bus station from there, they complained, we put it back, the one at Hasford. We put it back a second time, and the same thing happened again. It's the very same reason why we moved it the first time. When we put it back the second time, the very same thing happened.
Gentlemen, I understand. We have 2 more calls. I'm going to make these our last 2 calls, and then we're going to wrap up the program. Line 2. Well, not this time. Line 1. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm a senior citizen. Concerning, totally agree to the lady that called a while ago, or where it was. I did not know you couldn't drive from the Cenotaph up to the market. I do not go to town on Saturdays. If they had the sign they have there, if it was displaced properly.
That is only on Saturdays.
Yes, if it was displaced properly, I would have seen it coming from the Cenotaph. When I saw it, I'm almost on the stop sign. So I had to come. I continue. There were 2 officers down at the Bay Road, and I felt very humiliated when they stopped me, because as if they don't have a parent, and the parent's not going to get old either. I went to help out an elderly who really, really was down, and I did not know you couldn't come across here because I would never do anything to violate the traffic, not the government. And he said, "You ain't see this sign down there? We just say, you still come to. You wish the traffic. Put it in there." So I said, "I'm sorry, I did not know that you couldn't come across here because on Saturday morning, with the traffic so fluent, I didn't expect you to block off either. There's so many roadworks that are going on right now. You don't even know where to drive because the traffic was terrible on Saturday morning." Then he sent back a younger one to me. And I see him, he stayed very long because I had a line of us there in the line, give it as issuing ticket. I said, "What is this for?" I didn't even know what it was for. He said, "You have to pay it." I said, "Pay it where?" "Of the court, within 10 days. And so I'm telling him what I did. Well, I just went to help an elderly, but I did not know. I would never come across here. And this is the first time I have got into anything at all with the traffic. He said, "Anyway, you got to pay it." And he turned off. He turned off. The way look, 2 bike pass across, wheeling. Those are the people supposed to give ticket. No, they don't have no tickets to issue for them not wearing the mask because they're using the tickets foolishly. And I can't understand why someone like to say this when they have on a uniform. One of them even real police because he said, SKNDF, the tag on his shoulder. I know they have authority to do something, but they got to learn to know how to deal with senior citizens and speak to people. I don't like people to talk to me like that. I always try to respect my elders. Okay, y'all need to do something about the traffic. Very, very much, especially now they're doing road works. Thank you.
All right, that seemed to be our last call. We don't have any more calls at the moment. So I'll let you address the lady and then we'll wrap up the program.
Thank you, ma'am. I must apologize for the officers' behavior. We do not encourage officers disrespecting motorists or anyone for that matter. We always encourage them to be professional, be polite, be courteous. You could do all of that and still be firm. So we really do not condone that type of of conduct by your officers.
Right.
But having said that, she said that she saw the sign, but she didn't realize that she couldn't go across there.
Until she got to the stuff.
We know sometimes you will not get to hear everything. That's why we have signs. If you didn't get to hear it on the radio, if you didn't get to be told about it, we place a sign so that at least once you see the sign, you should figure that the sign means I cannot go across there. The sign says no entry. You go around the sign and then say that you didn't know that you can't come across there.
All right.
But the sign says no entry. So how else would you know other than following, complying with the sign? When you see a sign, the sign is there to indicate what you could do and what you cannot do.
Indeed.
So if there's a sign in the road, just comply with the sign. And we have that problem. I see it all the time. You place a sign in the middle of the road and the person will go around the sign. They didn't knock down the sign, but they would tell you they didn't see it, but they didn't knock it down. So if you knock it down, then I could understand that you didn't see it.
Yeah. True.
But the fact that you went around it, meant that you saw it.
We see, but in defense of the callers who have called in with that issue, from what I've seen, from driving down on that road, because I did it myself after the conversation with officers Liebert Shipperton. I drove down to see if really and truly, why people was going around the sign. And at the end of the day, you wasn't going around the sign. What happening is when you're coming down from the cenotaph, 90% of the time you have vehicle on the left.
Back on the left-hand side, right.
So if you were driving on the left, you would have had to come around and go around the sign.
Right.
So, but if you're coming straight down, in front of you is a clear view, and make it as if no traffic is coming. And 90% of the time, based on how it is set up, no traffic is coming because all of the traffic now is on the left, and it's almost like a walking zone, so to speak, now on a Saturday in that area. You don't really see too much traffic coming back this way
that's the idea.
unless it's a bus.
That's the kind of atmosphere we want to
Right.
create.
So, but when you're coming down, you're like, okay, I'm coming, and you go down, because normally when you're driving on the Bay Road, you'll have to wait until the vehicle comes up. Yes. So it happened to me when I'm going on, I said, okay, I see this sign because I'm looking for it. But if I was on the left side,
it would have been obstructed.
It would have been obstructed, but 90% of the time, right. So
you would only see something coming in that opposite direction.
Right. Based on your observance.
But still, people are supposed to be observant enough. There's a cone, because I passed there from time to time. Last Saturday I was there, and there's a cone next to the side to attract your attention, because we can't put it out any further.
Right.
If you put it in the center of the road,
right,
you're not going to be able to pass. Traffic coming from the market.
That's a good addition, because when I passed, no cone wasn't there.
Right. So there's a cone there just to
slow down traffic,
attract your attention somehow.
Okay.
And there's a big orange and white thing across the road. You can't miss that.
Yeah.
Unless you're driving absent-minded.
Yeah.
You shouldn't really miss it. We cannot put it in the other lane, because if you put it in the other lane,
you'll have to be constantly moving it back and forth all the time.
You will block traffic that is coming out of from the market direction. So it has to be on the left lane. That is the lane that going towards the market.
The next thing Val could do is just get someone there to flag down the traffic. Say, hey, hold on, where you going? There's a sign here. Adhere to the sign, please. Go up the road. That'll be the next option.
I've seen an officer there once or twice.
Yeah. The officers there, but we can't have an officer there all the time.
I know. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm just trying to add some reasoning to what's going on there.
That's the whole purpose of signs, to indicate to traffic whatever restriction there is.
Forget what I said.
No, but that is the excuse that's the reason that most people give. They were driving on the right hand side anyway, so they didn't realize the sign on the left hand side.
Yeah.
Right? But we cannot put the sign on the right hand side, because it creates another problem for persons who are coming out.
Superintendent, I would not even add another point to that. You are indeed correct, and we just need to be more vigilant when we're driving.
More vigilant.
That's all. Gentlemen, we'll have to wrap it up here. I know the calls are coming in, but we're way past our time, and I have another interview schedule coming up shortly. Sure. So, gentlemen?
Yeah, I'll let the Soup wrap up. And in wrapping up, Soup, just two things I would like you to touch on. I understand that, there are things that can cause a function to be shut down, so to speak. I've even been told by a civilian that you've been seen at some of these functions at 2 and 3 in the morning. So, in closing, one, what can cause some of these social events to be shut down? And two, you've been involved in the COVID task force and the entire COVID process from the very incipient, since the genesis. So, what are some of the most important thing, or what is the most important thing that you wish for people to bear in mind during these times?
Okay. Well, if I'm seen at a function at 3 in the morning, it means that the function is violating the condition, because all the conditions are up to 2. All the events are given permission up to 2. So if at 3 in the morning, it means that the function is beyond its time, and so it forced me to be there. So yes, that is one of the things that would cause an event to be closed down if you violate the condition. So one of the conditions is that you must close off at 2. So at 2:30 and you're still going, you will be stopped. Another condition is that you must log the names of persons who are entering. And some persons do not understand why you have to put down your name to go in a dance or to go to a party. It is for contact tracing. Should something go wrong and it is traced back to that event, we'll be able to know who was at the event, because those persons, everybody who was at that event would have been exposed. And so we'll be able to, the authorities will be able to contact these persons to let them know, hey, you're being possibly exposed, and we need to ensure that you're okay. So it is for your good that if something were to go wrong, some infection, somebody might have been infected in the event, in the party, or in the event that you do not know, we'll be able to contact you to let you know that you need to get yourself tested. So if you're not complying with any of the conditions, that would be grounds for the event to be stopped if you cannot correct it.
Okay.
Because if there's 100 people in there, you didn't take any names, I don't think you could correct that. So that would cause you to be closed down. If you're not hand sanitizing, then we could tell you, hey, you need to start hand sanitizing. So I don't think we will close you down if you're not hand sanitizing. We'll tell you you need to do it. So, but if you tell us you don't have any hand sanitizer, then you will be closed down, because it means that you can't fix the problem. So if the problem is fixable, you'll fix it and you'll continue. If you can't fix it, then you have to close. Biggest problem that I'm seeing, wearing the mask. People just having a hard time adjusting to wearing the mask. And so we have to continue to preach that, get it in people's head that it is for their own safety. It is the only means of, one of the main means of prevention. There is no vaccine, and that is one of the non-pharmaceutical means to prevent the spread.
All right. Well,
on that note, I want to close off.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Superintendent Henry, for coming. It was a pleasure being here with you and speaking to you. You were part of the task force. You're one of the more intelligent and educated police officers. So I think I always take pleasure in hearing what you have to say. So you really express my appreciation. GQ, for me, again, it's always a pleasure for me to be here. As I keep saying all the time, COVID is the new normal. So therefore, we have to adapt and conform to ensure that we all remain safe. We all continue to stay safe. We see where the government has invested millions in ensuring that changes are made. The various businesses have also done likewise. And we too need to do our part in order to ensure that we remain safe as a people and as individuals. GQ, again, it was a pleasure being here. This has been another edition of Policing with You, brought to you with the kind compliments of our friends at National Bank. Do tune in again next week for another edition.
Cable introduces My Cable, your convenient online cable account experience. It gives you the power to pay your bills in real time, manage